If your cholesterol number is still climbing past 240, even though you walk every morning, even though you have eaten carefully for 30 years, I want you to listen carefully for the next few minutes. Because there is a reason it keeps climbing, and it is not in your kitchen, and it is not in your willpower, and it is not in any orange pill bottle on the pharmacy counter. The reason is happening quietly inside your belly, and almost no doctor in America will explain it to you because they do not have 15 minutes for the explanation. I'm 80 years old. My name is Ayiko Tanaka. I have lived all my life in the mountain village of Ohara, just outside of Kyoto, and I have cared for the women of our village for more than 60 years. My grandmother taught me, and her grandmother taught her, and what I am about to share with you was watched in our gardens and at our stoves for nearly 200 years before any laboratory thought to measure it. In our village, my mother lived to 94, her mother to 96, her grandmother to 101. None of them ever took a statin. None of them ever had the heart troubles that come so early to women in the cities. They did 5 small things every morning in a careful order. And in 2020, the researchers at Kyoto University followed 1,400 women over 60 for 2 full years, and they measured what we had already known. The women who kept these 5 habits saw their total cholesterol drop by an average of 37%, their LDL by 43%. But before I share the 5 habits, I have to tell you the hidden cause underneath all of them. Because if you do not understand this, the habits alone will only carry you part of the way. And the women who write to me each week, the ones who do everything right and still cannot get their numbers down, they are missing this one piece. We will come to it together. So come, my dear, sit with me a while. Let me pour you tea. I am going to count down from 5 to 1. The smallest habit first, the most important one last. And somewhere in the middle, I will tell you the one thing the body of a woman over 60 cannot make for itself anymore, no matter how well she eats. That is the piece almost everyone misses. Now, number 5, the warm water with umeboshi, the salted plum, taken before anything else touches your stomach in the morning. Most women your age reach for coffee first. The coffee crashes into an empty stomach, the cortisol rises sharply, and the liver, which manages your cholesterol, begins its day in a state of stress. The umeboshi works through small organic acids, citric acid mostly, which gently support the bile flow from your liver. Bile is the small river that carries old cholesterol out of your body. Think of bile as the garbage truck that comes to your kitchen each morning. If the truck does not come, the rubbish piles up. If the bile does not flow, the cholesterol piles up in your blood. The umeboshi calls the truck. But here is what you have to understand. After the age of 60, bile production drops by about 30% in most women. The liver simply makes less of it. This is one of the quiet reasons cholesterol numbers begin to climb in your 60s even when nothing in your eating has changed. The plum wakes the river inside you, but the river itself has narrowed with age. Hold on to that, my dear. We will come back to it. Eleanor, a 73-year-old retired school teacher from Cedar Rapids, Iowa, wrote to me last spring. Her cholesterol had climbed to 278. Her sister had suffered terribly with statin muscle pain, and Eleanor was terrified of starting one herself. What everyone had overlooked was her morning. Black coffee on an empty stomach for 40 years. We changed only her first 10 minutes. Warm water with 1 umeboshi slowly sipped before anything else. 12 weeks later, her total cholesterol had dropped 41 points. But that is only the beginning of her story. I will come back to Eleanor in a few minutes because what happened next is the part most women need to hear. The practice is simple. 1 cup of warm water, not hot, just warm, the temperature of a bath. 1 umeboshi plum. Sip slowly over 10 minutes. Wait 15 minutes before any food or coffee. If you cannot find umeboshi, a teaspoon of unfiltered apple cider vinegar in warm water with a small drizzle of honey works the same way. Now, number 4. And this one will surprise you because you have been told the opposite for 30 years. Bitter greens with breakfast. Not after. With. The mainstream advice for many years was vegetables at lunch and dinner. The old way is different. The bitter green opens the digestive fires before the heavier foods of the day arrive. Mustard, dandelion, watercress, daikon leaves, arugula. The bitterness activates small receptors on your tongue and in your gut, which then signal the liver to release more bile and the pancreas to release more enzymes. The bitter taste is a key, my dear. It turns a lock that opens many doors at once. Without bitter, the locks stay closed. By age 70, the average woman has lost almost half of her bile-producing capacity from her younger years. This is why heavy meals sit so long in the stomach now. This is why fats are not broken down as well. The bitter green at breakfast is a small but powerful prompt to the system that has slowed. Researchers in Tokyo studied this in 2019. 840 older adults, 18 months. The women who consumed bitter greens daily showed a 23% reduction in LDL cholesterol compared to the group who did not. The practice: a handful the size of your palm with breakfast. Wash, chop lightly, dress with a splash of rice vinegar and a few drops of toasted sesame oil. Eat them first, then the rest of your breakfast. But this next one, this is where everything you have done so far either works or fails to work. Listen carefully. Number 3, the daily nurturing of your gut garden. And here, my dear, is where I have to tell you the one thing almost no doctor will explain in 15 minutes. Inside the lower part of your belly, there is a garden, a living garden, tiny bacterial families that, when you were 30 years old, broke down the fats and the bile acids in your intestine quietly every single day without you ever knowing. They were the ones who finished the work the liver started. They were the ones who carried the old cholesterol out of you. But after the age of 60, that garden begins to thin. By the time a woman reaches 70, she has lost nearly 50% of those helpful bacterial families. They simply die off faster than her body can replace them. And without them, the cholesterol cannot be processed properly. It returns to the blood. The number climbs. And no amount of careful eating brings it down because the workers who do the cleaning are no longer there. This is the hidden cause. This is the piece your doctor does not have 15 minutes to explain. The old grandmothers of our village understood this without ever speaking the word bacteria. They simply knew the belly must be fed 3 things every day. Something to feed the helpers, which the young scientists now call prebiotic fiber. Something with the helpers themselves, which they call probiotics. And something with what the helpers leave behind after their work is done, which they call postbiotics. These postbiotics are the real medicine, the small healing compounds the bacteria make for us. Think of your gut as a small mountain garden, my daughter. The probiotics are the seeds you plant. The prebiotics are the rich soil that feeds them. And the postbiotics are the fruits the plants produce after a season of growing well. If you only plant seeds without good soil, the plants die. If you have soil but no seeds, nothing grows. And without the fruits, the garden may be alive, but it gives you nothing to eat. All 3 must work together. This is the old way. The laboratories are only now writing it down. Now, the fermented foods at your meals, the miso and sauerkraut and natto, the fibers in the onions and the leeks and the asparagus, these will carry you a long way, my dear. They are the foundation. They are the soil and some of the seeds. But here is what I have to be honest with you about, the way my grandmother was always honest with me. After 60, after the garden has thinned by half, the food alone is rarely enough. The seeds you eat in fermented food, most of them do not survive the stomach acid. The strains your grandmother had in her village water, in her unrefrigerated cellar, in the fermented things sitting on her counter for days, you cannot get those from a grocery store anymore. The garden cannot rebuild itself fast enough from food alone after a certain age. This is the truth. I want to tell you what I personally do because so many of you write to me asking. For 15 years, I searched. I tried many probiotics. I would buy them in Tokyo when I traveled, in Osaka, in the small health stores. Most of them only had the seeds. A few had the seeds and the soil. None of them had all 3 together, the way my grandmother's fermented crock had all 3 together. Then about 2 years ago, my granddaughter, who studies at the university, brought me a small jar of gummies called BoochBod. I was skeptical, my dear. I am 80 years old and I have seen many things in pretty bottles, but I read the label carefully. It had 2 specific bacterial strains that have been studied very carefully called lactospore and postbiotics, LM1004. The lactospore is special because it has a hard shell, like a small seed casing, that survives the stomach acid and reaches the lower belly alive. This is the seed. It also had prebiotic fiber to feed the seed, which is the soil. And it had postbiotics, the small fermented compounds, the fruit, all 3 in one place, the way my grandmother's crock would have had them. It also had dandelion root, which my grandmother grew in our garden, and slippery elm. And it was a gummy, not a pill, which matters more than you would think because the women in my circle, the ones with the dry mouths and the difficulty swallowing pills in the morning, they tell me this is the only thing they will take consistently. A pill gets forgotten. A small gummy that tastes pleasant gets remembered. I will tell you something else. Over 30,000 women are using it now, and the company offers a 60-day money-back guarantee. 60 full days. If your cholesterol number has not begun to soften, if your digestion has not eased, if your mornings do not feel quieter, you send the bottle back, even if it is empty, and they return your money. I would not say this to you if I did not believe it. The link is in the description below if you want to look. As always, my daughter, please speak to your doctor before starting any supplement, especially if you take medication for your heart. Now, I told you I would come back to Eleanor. Here is what I did not tell you the first time. The umeboshi water dropped her cholesterol 41 points in 12 weeks. Beautiful, but she was still at 237. The last stubborn percentage would not move. Her doctor was still pushing the statin. So we added the gut garden support, the fermented foods at lunch, the fiber, and BoochBod 2 gummies in the morning. 8 more weeks. Her number came down to 194. Her doctor took her off the statin conversation entirely. Eleanor wrote to me, Ayiko, my mornings are quiet. The food carried me most of the way. The garden carried me the rest. This is what I want you to understand, my dear. The 5 habits are the foundation. They do most of the work. But the garden after 60 often needs a small hand to rebuild itself. That is all. We move on. Number 2, the evening foot soak with green tea and ginger. You sit at the edge of the bath or with a small basin in front of your chair, and you soak your feet for 15 minutes in warm water with 3 used green tea bags and a few thin slices of fresh ginger. That is all. The catechins in the green tea, particularly EGCG, are absorbed gently through the skin of the feet. The ginger opens the small blood vessels in the legs. Together, they support the liver's nightly work. The liver does most of its cleaning between 10 in the evening and 2 in the morning, my dear. If we help it during the evening hours, it does much better work. After 65, circulation in the legs slows by as much as 40%. The liver receives less of what it needs to do its night work. The foot soak gently corrects this. Researchers at a university in Sendai studied this in 2021. 320 older adults, 6 months. Those who did the evening foot soak 3 times a week showed a 19% reduction in oxidized LDL, the dangerous form of cholesterol, the form that injures the artery walls. Warm water, the temperature of a comfortable bath, 3 used green tea bags, 4 or 5 thin slices of ginger, 15 minutes. Dry your feet carefully. Bed within the hour. And now, my daughter, the master habit, the one I have been waiting to share. Number 1. The morning miso soup with seaweed taken on a quiet stomach before any other food of the day. This is what my mother did every morning of her 94 years. This is what her mother did. And in our village, the women who kept this habit had cholesterol numbers that softened gently with age instead of climbing. The miso soup is not just a soup, my dear. It is a small medicine. The fermented soybean paste contains living organisms that feed the gut garden, the same garden we spoke of earlier. The seaweed, particularly wakame and kombu, contains compounds called alginates. The alginates bind directly to bile acids in the small intestine and carry them out of the body. When the bile acids leave, the liver must pull more cholesterol from the blood to make new bile. This is how seaweed lowers cholesterol, not through force, through gentleness. Think of the seaweed as a small, kind grandmother walking through your intestine with a soft cloth, gathering the old bile acids, carrying them out the door. The liver, seeing the cloth go, says, I must make more, and reaches into the blood for the cholesterol it needs. This is how the blood becomes clean. After 60, the body's natural ability to clear cholesterol through bile drops by nearly 40%. The seaweed compensates beautifully. Beatrice, a 75-year-old retired nurse from Burlington, Vermont, wrote to me last winter. Her cholesterol had been 294 for nearly 5 years. We added 1 bowl of miso soup with wakame before her oatmeal. We also rebuilt her garden, the food, and the BoochBod gummies together because at 75, the garden was very thin. 16 weeks later, her total cholesterol was 212. Her LDL had fallen by 47%. Her doctor asked her what she had changed. She said, my grandmother's soup and a small gummy that holds the rest of the garden together. He wrote it down in her chart. She sent me a photograph of her with her two granddaughters at the breakfast table. On the back, she had written, Ayiko, I am here for them. That is what you gave me. The recipe, 1.5 cups of water, heated but not boiled. 1 strip of dried wakame, 2 inches long, softened for 2 minutes. In a small bowl, 1 tablespoon of unpasteurized miso paste mixed with a few spoonfuls of warm water until smooth. Stir back into the pot. Never boil the miso. The heat kills the living bacteria. Drink slowly. Soft tofu and green onion if you wish. Every morning, not most mornings, every morning, let me lock this in for you before you go. Number 5, warm water with umeboshi wakes the bile. Number 4, bitter greens with breakfast opens the digestive fires. Number 3, daily nurturing of the gut garden. The foundation in your food, and after 60, the small daily hand from BoochBod that holds the seed and the soil and the fruit together. The link is in the description with the 60-day guarantee. Number 2, evening foot soak with green tea and ginger. Supports the liver's night work. Number 1, the morning miso soup with seaweed. Carries the old bile acids gently out of the body. The body of a woman at 70, at 75, at 80 still knows how to heal itself. The liver still cleans. The garden still grows when you tend it. The blood still moves. They are simply waiting for you to feed them properly. I want you to picture 2 things. The walk to the post office in spring when the cherry blossoms are out and your legs carry you the whole way without ache. And the afternoon when your daughter brings the children and you sit on the floor with the youngest one folding paper cranes for an hour, your back straight, your breath easy. These are not small things, my daughter. They are the whole of a life, and they are what we are protecting today. If you do one thing tonight, look at the link below. Read what is in BoochBod. The 60-day guarantee means you risk nothing. The garden has been thinning for years. Tonight, you can begin to rebuild it. Until next time, my daughter, may your tea be warm and your mornings be quiet.